Hey everyone, this is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Happy Friday, everyone. Today we're going to take a look at Uranus in Gemini and its first ingress. What have we learned from this first ingress? What insights have we gained? We're doing this because Uranus is about to leave Gemini from its retrograde back into Taurus. And so it's a really good time with just a couple of weeks left to reflect on what we've learned so far with this first ingress. We'll outline Uranus in Taurus's timeline for you. We'll also let you know when Uranus is going to re-enter Gemini, kind of lay all of that timeline out there. And I've got some guiding questions for you to consider today that I think will help you meditate and reflect on what we've learned so far from Uranus in the sign of Gemini, but we're also going to pair that with some whole sign house horoscope reminders so you can remember where that planet is located in your chart right now. So that's our agenda for today. As always, remember to like and subscribe. Helps our channel grow immensely when you take 2 seconds and click the subscribe button, or you turn on the notifications bell and get updates. That helps you see new episodes when they drop a little bit more. So all of that helps us grow, and we really appreciate it. You can find transcripts of any of these daily talks on the website, nightlightastrology.com. I am excited to be promoting a couple of things. Go to the events page, click on live talks. You'll see my upcoming talk on the second house, which is the traditional house of money. Why and how can you read this house within your own birth chart? Or if you're a practitioner, how can you become a little bit wiser and more sensitive with the way that you read that second house? This is going to be a great talk for understanding all of that. If you can't attend live, any of the live talks that I do on a monthly basis, you get the recording afterward. Go to events, click on Silent Sundays. You'll also see that on October 26th is our first, very first meditation gathering. We're going to have 30 minutes of quiet time together. Sound a little silly, but if you don't have a meditation practice, or you're looking to maybe develop some community around a spiritual practice, this is free to attend. Just click the join button, join us on Zoom, 10:30 a.m. on Sunday the 26th. We'll spend some time in quiet together and do a little bit of reflecting afterward. No doctrines, no dogmas, just quiet. Go to the courses page. First year course is the last promotion for the day. Our new course starts in just a couple of weeks. It is not too late to join. We have pushed the start date back just a little bit because I had a commitment that I have to attend to that came up. So the start date is November 15th. And we've also, as a result, extended the early bird to the 31st of the month. So you have a little bit of extra time to work with the early bird rate, which saves you on the cost of the course, but also, most importantly, need-based tuition. If you'd like to come study with us and transform your life from the inside out with astrology, but you need a little bit of help to make that happen, or you have to work it within a really tight or fixed budget, we don't want people to hurt themselves with the cost of studying astrology. We want it to make sense for wherever you're at. So if you can't afford our sale prices or our going rate, please use the tuition assistance. It is there to make sure that astrology is accessible. You can pick through a sliding scale, and we'd be very glad for you to take advantage of that and come study with us. Come experience an amazing transformative program at a rate that doesn't hurt you, you know. One of the things that I've been doing every day is saying a little bit of why I think the course is so valuable. A lot of times when we're studying astrology, people tell us what to think about astrologically. This is what you ought to think about, or you should be thinking about this or that. But one of the things that helps is being taught how to think astrologically on our own. One of my teachers, and someone who was a very special person in my life for the brief time that I knew him, was Robert Schmidt, who spent a lot of time translating the early source texts Greek in the Greek language. And he was also a student of Greek philosophy. And more than anything, what he really taught me was how to think for myself astrologically. Learning to think astrologically for yourself is something that I really pride myself on making a core part of all of the programs. I want people to come through and understand the philosophical roots of the language, which then enables you to really be your own sort of astrological philosopher. And I think that's really important, because free thinking and movement within the language is what really facilitates the unique gift of your spirit as an astrologer, speaking to other people or even reading for yourself. So anyway, if you like that kind of thing, come study with us. More at the end of today's video, there's an informational video tagged on. You can learn more about the program. Okay, on that note, let's go ahead and take a look At Uranus in Gemini, here is the transit. And what we're doing is taking a look here on Friday, October 17th, at Uranus is at the 0-degree marker of Gemini and retrograde. If we take this forward just a little bit, it's around November 7th, so coming up in short time, that Uranus is going to backtrack into the sign of Taurus. It does so late evening on Friday, November 7th. That's just a few weeks away. And so we are in the final days of Uranus's first ingress into Gemini. To me, something that I find very beneficial for myself as a student of astrology, as someone who tracks transits and reflects on them, meditates on them regularly, and of course creates this content for all of you to do the same, is to sit with the final days of a planet's first ingress. It did the same thing with Pluto in Aquarius, or even, Saturn and Neptune when they first entered Aries. It's like after they're just about to back out, sit with it and go, what have I learned so far? What have some of the themes and lessons been? What has this god or goddess been saying to me? What has been coming through? Doing that intentionally does a few things. First, it helps you benefit from the experiences you've had because you're taking just a little bit of time to be reflective about them. All of a sudden, you realize there's all these insights to be gathered. But two, and maybe more importantly, it shows the collection of gods and goddesses, these living voices of the oracle, that you're here and that you care about them as teachers and guides for your life. And so taking a moment to reflect is a way of also just saying to them, hey, thanks, I've been paying attention, and thank you for guiding me. So I think it's really good to just pause and do something like this at a time like right now, when we have just a few weeks left. Let's look at the timeline that we've been through already, just as a reminder. So I'm going to eliminate everything from our perspective in this chart except for Uranus. So let's go backward in time. It was the month of June that Uranus first entered the sign of Gemini. And so we saw Uranus culminating at that 29th degree of Taurus. It was actually early July. So about here's July 7th. Right around that time, early July, Uranus enters Gemini. So from early July to early November, that's like 4 months. It's not much, right? It's just a little tiny sliver of time that we have been experiencing the first presence, the first voicing of the planet Uranus in this new sign. I have 5 questions that I think are going to be worthwhile for us to reflect on. And then I'm going to give you some brief horoscopic reminders of the whole sign house location in your birth chart that Uranus has been in, so that you can also maybe benefit from a little bit more, something a little bit more specific in addition to these 5 questions. So the first question, and remember, just if you need a reminder of the planet Uranus, a planet of innovation and rebellion, disruption of habits and norms, an eccentric, wayward, creative and original planet, but a planet that is often erratic and somewhat unpredictable and sometimes sort of chaotic in the way that it appears and breaks things open that are sometimes rigid or more structured. In this way, Uranus can be like the sudden onslaught of like punk metal music that just totally disrupts the normalcy of like pop music, for example. It can also be the revolutionary impulses of people who, I think the French and American revolutions. Uranus in Gemini in particular, then we're pairing this planet of great revolution and disruption and originality with a sign of Mercury, the mind, speech, communication, technology, the ability to communicate and articulate. Mercury as an archai, or sort of first philosophical principle, is about the interconnectedness of all things as distinct parts that are always simultaneously connected through things like communication and language. So you can think in a way of Hermes is a bit like the World Wide Web. It's like the nervous system. And in a way, it's like the complex wirings of, things that convey messages and images, like the brain or a computer screen. Um, I don't mean to use overly, I guess a brain and a computer. I don't mean to use such technological images, but Mercury is the god of invention and technique and technology itself. So in the ancient world, that was what Mercury was associated with. Anyway, here's the first thing that I think we could all ask ourselves, regardless of where this is showing up in your chart. And the first question is simple. What ideas have disrupted your life? And it could be an idea of your own or an idea of someone else, an idea that your boss has. What ideas, thoughts, concepts have come into your life and presented a challenge to the status quo? It's a simple, sweet idea to consider, and consider this from July until about right now. Number 2, where have I been called to think more freely or speak more openly? In other words, where is open-mindedness or greater freedom of speech or thought or ideas or communication been presenting themselves? Maybe I've been asked to consider someone else's freedom to think or speak differently from my own. Or maybe I've been asked to loosen up my perceptions of someone or something. Where have I been maybe the universe has just been nudging me or pushing me gently in the direction of being a little bit more open-minded, a little bit more open-hearted. Often our mind opens, our heart opens, or our heart opens and then our mind opens, So where has that been happening? Number 3, how have my relationships and networks adapted to new forms of connection or exchange? If you're in a business, this might be different forms of currency or products or different contracts or negotiations or working partnerships or collaborations with other contractors. Remember that Uranus is inventive, disruptive, original, creative, and Mercury is the god of money and exchanges and marketplaces and currencies and technologies. And so a simple thing might be to look at how have social, professional, entrepreneurial networks and collaborations changed. If you use technology for work, how has it changed? If you use media for work, what kinds of innovations or disruptions have you experienced? All of these might be very good to reflect on right now. And also, more broadly speaking, what kinds of cultural, conceptual, linguistic, paradigmatic changes are happening in any kind of social network in your life? Good to reflect on. Now, it might be that one of these questions makes a lot more sense than another. It's not that they're all supposed to make sense. It's that they're collectively, we hope that one of these is appropriate because the planets are archetypal. Uranus and Gemini could be more focused for you in the past 4 months on social networks and changes in commerce and business. For someone else, it is about radical disruption to ideas and thoughts or technology uses at work, or so the questions are really designed to touch on a variety of things that could be most likely happening. Number 4, what mental patterns or beliefs am I calling into question? When we have patterns of thought and behavior, or patterns of behavior, either or, Uranus and Gemini will get us to almost like rewire things and rewire them by, at least at the beginning, calling them into question. Why do I do this? Is this really necessary? So some form of creative skepticism could be happening with Uranus and Gemini, and it could be asking us to adjust some way of thinking or a belief system or structure, which may have tangible, practical ties to things we do or how we act or how we behave or how we organize or how we perform in some area of life. And it could be quite literally that it's changing the way you parent or the way that you relate to a lover or the way that you do your job. But mental patterns and habits being called into question and changed or transformed, or maybe they're just starting to be. Maybe there's some shifts that have happened and you're just noticing, ooh, look, Uranus has just got his foot in the door, so to speak. So it may be that it takes a longer time for some of those things to become really substantive. This is, after all, just the first ingress. But last but not least, what new forms of learning feel most alive? Uranus and Gemini will get us excited to learn something or to develop new skills, techniques, abilities, to communicate in new and creative ways. If you have any form of media or communication, in what ways are you innovating creatively and developing new skills or abilities? Or just broadly speaking, what forms of learning, knowledge, inventiveness, and creativity are feeling most awake and alert and alive and exciting, almost like a hot cup of coffee? So these, I think, are some good ways of thinking about it generally. Now let's hit up your horoscope reminders here. Apply those questions, take those questions, and then consider the following house topics. If you're in Aries, we're talking about a place of learning and the mind, of communication, speech, the environment, siblings. If you're a Taurus, we're talking about the financial house. We're talking about business, assets, material resources, how you manage them. If you're a Gemini, we're talking about identity, we're talking about your very notion of self, health, body. If you're, and maybe even appearance. If you're a Cancer, we're talking about the profound awakening that's happening by getting in touch with the unconscious, things that you think, or layers of mind that maybe have not been as accessible, places that have been dissociated or cut off, becoming available. For Leos, we're talking about groups, friends, allies, social networks. What kinds of larger or broader social systems or changes within social professional networks are taking place? For Virgos, we're talking about the career house, your vocation, the work environment, your calling in the world, or maybe even however you interact with the larger society that you live in. For Libras, we're talking about the ninth house, which is the place of higher beliefs, higher education, mentors, teachers, gurus, spirituality, religion. What paradigmatic changes are happening there, or maybe even in other countries somehow? For Scorpios, we're talking about soul contracts. How are obligations to other people changing? How are relationships experiencing greater freedom? What kinds of attachments are you being asked to let go of? What new bonds or forms of sharing are being developed? What kinds of resources coming from relationships are offering greater freedom or flexibility? These are all things to consider for Scorpios. For Sagittarians, it's in the relationship house. Where is there an opening or opportunity for greater freedom, originality, inventiveness, playfulness, creativity in love? How are interpersonal dynamics changing? Who is coming into your life that's interesting or different somehow? For Capricorns, it's the sixth house. How is your daily work changing? How's the daily grind changing? What ways are you finding to feel freer, happier, less constrained in the way that you work day to day? In even what's changing with respect to things like your health, or what kinds of obstacles are you facing and how are you going to overcome them through innovation or creativity? For Aquarians, it's the fifth house. It's a place of creativity and creative fulfillment. In what ways are you being asked to completely reinvent yourself, but it has to come through some kind of creative self-expression? Or in what ways are you being asked to become looser or freer mentally and emotionally, that translates into more playful, fun, satisfying, exchanges with other people that bring greater happiness? Even the topic of pregnancy could be coming up somehow for Aquarians. And then finally, for Pisceans, it's in the fourth house, the place of home and family, the place of roots, parents, parental karma, the living environment, revolution at the roots for Pisceans. So I think if you take those 5 questions and you sit with them just a little bit right now, like I'm going to show you. Here's what I want you to do. This is your homework. I'm going over to my couch and I'm just going to sit here. I won't really just sit here. And I'm going to sit with these questions. I literally mean it. Just sit with them. I mean, for real. Like, all you have to do, I know that it's like, it's fun to take the questions in just because you're listening in the car, on the treadmill, or like whatever. But when I say sit with them, I literally mean it. This is why we're starting to have our Silent Sunday meetings, because I know what it's like to take things in a podcast and to just be like taking it in as a stream of information. And, oh, that's interesting. And I can come up with some stuff right on the spot as I'm listening. But it goes to a totally different level when you take those questions, pop in your earbuds, pause with each one, pause the podcast, and actually sit with it, think through it. that's what I'm designing them to. That's how I want them to be used. Obviously, you're your own free little soul, so you do what you want. But anyway, that's what I'm intending. You have homework. Okay, that's it. There's an informational video about the year one program. If you want to be bossed around more, I'm just kidding. Come study with us. Being taught how to think astrologically, how to move about in this philosophical mandala, but to do so freely and to really become your own thoughtful astrologer. That's what this program is designed to do. It is for people who want a really radical spiritual dive into astrology, to be transformed in mind and heart. That's what I love about this program. It's what I love seeing people get out of it as they go through it. So come study with us. More on that next. Hope you have a great weekend. Bye. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking around. I'm excited to tell you about our upcoming program, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic. This is our first year course in Hellenistic astrology, and it begins again this November. In this video, I'm going to tell you about the course, the format of the course, and how to register. So let's go ahead and get into it. What is this course about? Well, if you are not familiar, ancient Hellenistic astrology is the earliest and original form of horoscopic astrology. All of the subsequent forms and schools of astrology that have existed over thousands of years come from these philosophical and theoretical roots. And so what you're doing when you study Hellenistic astrology is you're going back to understand the why behind absolutely everything. Why were there ever such a thing as houses and signs in the first place? How were the planets ever assigned to rule various portions of the zodiac in the first place? How do you use the categories of essential dignity, and why were they ever created in the first place? If you're someone like me, you like to know the why behind things, because once you understand the why, then you know how to use things more intuitively. So really the point of Hellenistic astrology, in my opinion, is not so much about going back and becoming a traditional astrologer or, just being traditional for the sake of being traditional, as much as it is about grasping the roots of the entire system and paradigm. When you understand those roots, you have more intuition and understanding, which allow for you to be much more artful and fluid in the way that you speak the language of astrology. We call this class Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic because while it is about going back to understand the philosophical, theoretical, technical roots of the tradition, it's also about fluidly bridging those things with modern astrology and all of its most unique contributions. For example, modern astrology has given us so much psychological depth and personal depth. And so in a modern astrological setting, you're going to get the ability to explore your own character, your own psychology, and you're going to be able to utilize astrology for a process of healing and personal transformation. But when you pair that with ancient astrology, and it's almost like predictive karmic analytics, you really have a full toolkit to work with. And so that's also a great mission of ours at Nightlight, is to bridge ancient and modern forms, which is why we call the program Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic. So that's just a little kind of overview of the program. If you want to know more about the specifics of the curriculum and of the syllabus, what I encourage you to do is go over to nightlightastrology.com, click on the courses page, go to the first year course, scroll down, and you'll see this over 12 months you'll learn about. And here you're going to see more of a detailed breakdown of the curriculum itself. I can promise you that if you've studied astrology in modern context, but you've never gone back to the ancient roots, while some of these topics may look familiar to you and you go, oh, I've already learned about that. Unless you've studied them from the Hellenistic perspective, I guarantee that you are not going to be familiar with this content. Hellenistic astrology is mind-blowingly new and interesting for most people. And if you've never studied it, again, don't assume that anything on this list is something you're going to be familiar with. In that way, the program is really ideal for a variety of different people, and I'll say more about that in a second. So what is the format of the course? Let's go to that next. Scroll down and you're going to see that the course includes 30 online webinars that I lead throughout the year. Over the course of a year together, I have 30 classes that are broken into different units of material. In between those classes, we have breakout study sessions with your course director and 2 TAs. they're going to lead you through Q&A sessions and tutoring sessions to make sure that you have a lot of support in between major units of study. In addition, we also have an interactive group forum discussion where you can ask questions year-round and get an answer within a business day in the student forum, where a lot of people also connect and build community. Lots of people in that forum also develop like little meetup groups outside of class. That's very common in all of our programs. It's a very community-loving, warm space where anyone's also welcome. Throughout the course, you're also going to find that for every lesson, if you're just there as a hobby student, you can just listen to the webinars. They're all recorded for you. So if you can't make the live webinars, everything is housed on the website as recordings. I'd say about 40 or 50% of our students are going to be following along at their own pace, whereas the other half might be attending the live webinars. But it's really kind of, you know, if you can attend a few and then 1 week you got to be gone, the recordings are always there. You have lifetime access to everything in the course, so it's not a big deal. For every lesson as well, if you're someone who wants to go really, really deep, maybe you have the intention to practice professionally, this course is set up with an optional certification exam at the end from our school, from our program. So you can, you know, if you want to build that resume and develop the credentials from our programs, you can do that, but you also, it's optional, so you don't have to. And outside of every lesson, we have recommended reading. We have supplemental bonus content, all of which is optional, but it's there for people who might want a lot more, whereas some people will take the webinars themselves, and that'll be plenty. So it's really flexible in that way. Also, this is one program within 4 years of curriculum that are meant to go together. And so most people who come through our first year program will end up taking our second year program, where we develop forecasting and prediction and transit tracking techniques. Our third year program, which is aimed at counseling and psychology. So psychological counseling skills is our third year program. And then the Oracle Within, which is our exploration of the philosophical, spiritual roots of the divinatory oracular tradition of astrology. So there's a lot of material there. We also have another 1 year program in horary astrology for some people who want to add that predictive tool to their toolkit. So there's just a lot of material at Nightlight that this class is actually just one part of, which can be taken standalone, or for some people, they get into it, they're going to love it. You're going to hang out with us for 3 or 4 years worth of content. This program is ideal for a number of different types of students of astrology. I'll say that for starters. So let's see here. I'll stop sharing this. So we have there's a profile of the typical students who come through our courses. One is going to be people who just want a very guided introduction to ancient astrology because you've never had it before. Maybe you're only familiar with modern, and you want that guided, structured approach to learning traditional for the first time. Also, people who are brand new to astrology in general, there's no better place to start than at the roots of the ancient foundations. So whether you're a total beginner or just a beginner to Hellenistic, this is a great place to start. If you are someone who's been around astrology for a long time, but you've never had a guided, structured approach to Hellenistic astrology, again, this is a great place to start. I promise you, Hellenistic is very different than what you're familiar with, and you're going to need a guided and structured approach at some point in time. I also think for people who are looking for a lineage, which means not just a bunch of information, but a practitioner-specific based approach where you get to see a practitioner work with clients. You get to hear how a practitioner has prioritized different techniques and why. You're going to get a structured, spiritually grounded focus at Nightlight as well, where if you're looking for someone who practices astrology but also values grounded everyday spiritual practice, that's Nightlight. If you want a community that's been in the industry for a long time now, this is our 16th year of teaching programs and guiding students through trainings. So all of those things, if they matter to you, this is a great place to study. It's a warm community atmosphere. It's spiritually grounded. It's focused. It's academically rigorous. It's going to provide you the appropriate preparation for practicing professionally, especially if you go through all of our programs. But also for those who are just curious and love astrology for your own personal interest, this is going to be a great place for you to learn and grow and thrive and feel like you have a lot of support around you in the curriculum, the teachers, the community, as you're developing, what might just be a personal interest or spiritual hobby. So that is who it's ideal for. Finally, how you register. You go over to the website. I'm going to take you back there. And it's at the bottom of the first year page. You're going to find that the early bird rate is in effect until October 24th. You can save significantly off the cost of the course when you use the early bird rate, where you can pay in full, or use an early bird installment rate plan. Both are going to save you off significantly off the cost of the course. But also at Nightlight, it has always been our mission to make sure that astrological education is accessible for everyone. So please, if you are someone who would love to take this course, but maybe you can only afford a small amount of tuition per month, use the tuition assistance. It is there. All you got to do is plot, you fill out the little form, you tell us your situation. If you're on a fixed income, if you're on a limited income, if you're part-time, if you're in between jobs, if you don't make a lot and you're on that fixed budget, we understand. We don't want people to hurt themselves trying to study something that is spiritual that we feel should be very accessible for everybody. So if you're someone who could use a little help to make this program happen, for whatever reason, maybe you're a single parent, or you're on disability, or you're retired, or you're on a fixed income, whatever the case is, use that tuition assistance. Also, people in other countries who have extreme, exchange rates. We get it. So just use the tuition assistance, and we'll be glad to make sure that the price point is accessible. For us, as a spiritual topic, we're a business at the end of the day, but we believe that this is a spiritual topic. And so accessibility has been a part of our model for 16 years now. We've never not had one of our training programs with affordable sliding scale-based prices for people who need it. So please take advantage of that. It's all there for you. I hope to see you in classes soon. And if you have any questions about the program whatsoever, direct them to us at info@nightlightastrology.com. And I hope to see you all coming up here in November. Take it easy, everyone. Bye.